Hi, welcome to this episode. In this episode, we are going to see the dinner items that I have eaten for this phase of the study. Very interesting findings. I've had my regular meat dinners that I eat every day. Plus, also, I've included some exotic Indian foods like dosa, dahi vada, kichidi, and a few of the other things. So let us go into the study.
Here, my dinner was Menudo. It's a kind of thick soup made with meat. Those who eat Menudo know what it is. And this was the best result I got out of this. In general, I get very good results out of eating meat. In fact, I had become a vegetarian for a long time. But then I was born into a non-vegetarian family, and for most of my life, I used to eat non-vegetarian. But for about 10 years, I had become a vegetarian. And then when I decided to become diabetic free, I said, I have to do something. So I studied various foods and I settled on eating meat for dinner and a vegetarian lunch. So my sugar stayed almost flat. I mean, it reached minus 14, and then it went up slightly, very slightly, and then started dropping gradually over the next 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, reaching a low of minus 65, and then stayed almost at that level till midnight. So this was the best result I got out of studying dinners. Here I started off with two pieces of meat. This is barbecued meat and shredded meat. This is my traditional, my usual dinner. At dinner time, I eat meat. And this one, as you can see, after I had the meal for about an hour, it went down. My sugar level went down to as low as minus 32. And then over the next 1 hour, it increased slowly and reached minus 18. So it rose from minus 32 to minus 18. So that is it grew about 14 points, but it was below my baseline. And after that, again it started dropping over the next 1 hour to a low of minus 39. So that's a 21 point drop. And then it kind of stayed at that level, slightly going down to minus 43. And then over the next 1 hour, by almost midnight, it went up to minus 35. So it rose about 8. But what we see in this is from my baseline, this was around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I start eating my meat. I actually did not increase my sugar. If you see, the lowest is minus 32, and I ended at minus 35. So, this is the result of eating the two pieces of meat with shredded meat. Next, we are going to see the meat again, two pieces of meat and a sausage that has been cut up. And very interesting result, my sugar stayed where it was for 1, 2 hours, and then it slowly dropped very little to -8 from my baseline. Then it went back up by midnight to almost my baseline where I started. So this is, we see, doesn't really have any effect on my body. Next is Dahi Vada. This is a favorite of the Indians. This is basically vadas which are fried. It's made out of lentil, small balls, little flattened. It's deep fried in oil, and then it is soaked in a little watered down yogurt, and they add some spices to it. And this is a favorite of the Indians, dahi vada. And notice how my sugar started rising slowly up to a high of 25, then kind of stayed there, and over the next 2 hours kind of dropped slowly till it reached 15 points above my baseline by midnight. Here is vada. These are made with ground lentils and spiced up with some onions and other spices. Again, a very favorite dish. This particular vada is called masala vada. Medu vada is made with grinding the lentil very fine, and making them into flattened balls and deep frying them. And then you can eat them raw with chutney and sambar, or you can eat them dipped in yogurt. We saw that in one of the dinner items here in today's study. So I had a couple of these things. And then, of course, a salad because the quantity wasn't enough for me. And my sugar from -18 had risen up to 14, which was about a 32-point rise. And then gradually over the next 3 to 4 hours, gradually started dropping, and reached around -23 after 2 hours. And then just rose up slightly, and again started dropping down to reach a level of -41. So, as I told you, the what is important to see in every food is how much it increases your sugar and how long it stays in your body. This was a little eye opener for me, a surprising result that the sugar had actually come down and not really stayed in my body for a long time. Next, we see fried rice with cauliflower Manchurian. I guess this is a very common food in Southeast Asia, and Indians also like it. I think this is almost a universal food. Fried rice with some kind of a fried vegetable. It's got some coating on it. And my sugar from about -11, it went down. Notice the carbs. It went down to -11, and then over the next 1 hour, it shot pretty rapidly, went up to 40, 41. So that's a rise from -11 to 41 is about 50-point rise within an hour, and kind of stayed in my body around that level till midnight. So this is the effect of having fried rice, which has got oil and fried Manchurian, cauliflower Manchurian. Next, we see a rice item. This is made with rice and lentils and little vegetables. This is called Kichidi. Again, a favorite of Indians. It's a rice item with lentils, and it's eaten on some special occasions or almost every week. Uh, and when people are not well, if they are sick, they give this because it's a easy to digest food. But because it's made of rice and potatoes sometimes, it does have some kind of effect on your body. Like, my sugar was had dropped down to about minus 45 initially, and then it started rising steeply over the next 1 hour, went up to 16 points above. So from bottom of 45 to 16, so almost a 61 point rise. So this is what we have to see, how much it rises and then how soon it comes down. From there, over the next 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it started dropping gradually, reaching a low of minus 29 by 11 o'clock, and then dropped again a little more, and by midnight it was minus 40 points. So, although the sugar had risen, it had also dropped back. So, this was a very surprising find for me. I had thought rice is very bad on the body, but uh, the the sugar levels in my body shows it rises sharply, and within couple of hours it had dropped back to normal levels. Next, we are going to see the day I had pizza for dinner. This used to be one of my favorites. Pizza Hut pizza with a couple of toppings, pepperoni and sausage. So I wanted to try it. I stopped eating. It was my favorite before I became conscious of my sugar level and the resolve to drop my sugar, become diabetic free. But for this study's sake, I studied this and the effect of sugar. So I had this around 9 o'clock, and my sugar had kind of dropped initially. We have seen this with carbs. There's a lot of carb bread here. So we have seen this before also. Whenever you eat carbs, it kind of stays in the body. It actually drops a little bit your sugar level. So I had reached minus 35, and then it started rising steeply from minus 35. Within a matter of 2 hours, it went up to plus 30. So that is a 65 point rise in 2 hours, which is really not very good. And then it stayed there till midnight. So this is what is the effect of pizza, rising the sugar to about 65 points within 2 hours. Next, I'm going to show you this sandwich, a Subway sandwich, vegetarian, 6 inches. Of course, this got bread, carb, and packed with a lot of vegetables. I avoid any dressings so that dressings have preservatives and sugar and oil. So I typically try not to take any dressings and eat it with just vegetables and maybe some cheese. So my sugar started dropping, over the 1.5 hours came down to about minus 30 and then started rising. This is see the effect of carbs, breads on our body. It stays for a couple of hours flat and then steeply increases over the next 1 hour. It had gone up to 41 points. So that's a rise of about 71 points within an hour and then gradually dropped and had come down to my baseline by midnight. So this was again an eye-opener result for me, even though it was bread and carbs, not very bad, but still, it's a 71 point rise. This is dosa. It's a very popular Indian dish. It is made of rice and lentil flour. It is something like a pancake or a crepe, more like a crepe because this is flat. They do add some oil or some butter or ghee. It's very, very tasty, and it used to be one of my favorite until I saw how the bad effect it had on my sugar levels. And usually with this, we have a kind of a lentil soup called sambar and a shredded coconut chutney. It's spiced up, and this is a favorite. I guess it originated in South India, but now it's a pan India favorite. And I've seen this in every country. And almost every society has something like the dosa. Even if for Ethiopians, I have seen this in Ethiopia and in South Africa. And of course, they all use different ingredients. In dosa is made with rice and we call urad dal, which is a lentil. But some people make this like pancakes are made with all-purpose flour. Crepes are similar. So this is what it is. So my sugar started dropping and it reached initially because of the carbs to minus 27 and then see over the next 1 hour how steeply it rises and reaches a high of 97 within like an hour, hour and a half, then kind of stayed there and marginally came down over the next 1 hour to 78 above. And over the next 1 hour, it had dropped another 20 points, but it was 58 points above my baseline. And look at the amount of period this sugar is in the body. So, this is what we need in this study. We need to learn to avoid which food increases the sugar and stays there for a long time. Here is the summary of today's episode. I have laid out these pictures in ascending order of the best to the worst. So first we have this menudo meat soup, followed by the two pieces of meat with the ground meat. And the third one is the meat, two pieces of meat with the cut up sausages. Then we have the Dahi Vada that's made with the lentil and dipped in thin yogurt. Next is this masala vada, two of them. The next one is fried rice with cauliflower Manchurian. The next is Kichidi, which is rice and lentils cooked together. The next is pizza, two slices of pizza with pepperoni and sausage. Then there is this half a Subway sandwich, 6-inch sandwich, veggies. with no dressings. And finally, the main villain of the show is dosa with sambar and chutney.